Good evening guys, or good day guys. Today I'm going to be starting on removing the engine on my 2015 BRZ. It's got the regular FA20 engine in it. This is going to be the second time that I've taken out this engine. The first time I had a bad engine, I guess, and I took it out without the transmission, or with the transmission, sorry, and this time I'm going to be taking it out without the transmission, so I can sort of give you guys an idea of what's going to be easiest if you ever need to do this. But it is an easy engine to take out. I've never, before the first time I took this one out, I had never had any experience with taking out engines, and I did it in a couple hours myself, so it's pretty easy to take out. If you do have the right tools, you will need some sort of lift, like an engine lift or a forklift, something like that. But it is pretty simple. Gotta take off pretty much everything that's connected to the engine, which is air intake, some hoses. There's a couple hoses underneath there. There's a couple hoses here, and there's a couple wires, like the alternator wire, and then the ECU wires, and a couple of starter wires. That's pretty much it. There's 2 engine mounts underneath, and a few of the fuel lines and stuff like that. There is a couple hours of work, but I think pretty much anyone can tackle this if they have any mechanical experience at all. So now I'm going to show you guys exactly what to take off and how I take this engine out, and guess go from there. Some of the tools you'll need is a ratchet, and the most sockets you'll use the most is a 12 mil and a 14. You will use the 10 in some places, but mostly it's going to be the 12. But it's mostly just a few tools that you need. If you do have an impact, it makes things a lot easier, but last time I barely used one, even though I had one. So you can just take it out with basic tools. And there are like screwdrivers that you'll need, the Phillips and flathead pretty much. And you will need this to disconnect the fuel lines. It's just a fuel line or AC line disconnector. And I think that's pretty much the basic tools that you'll need. I'll tell you guys if you do need more. I can put a list up if you guys want to know more about which tools you're going to need. But yeah, I'll start by taking things off and showing you guys what I do. For the air intake, there are I think 2 bolts. There's one right here, one that's right here, and I'm going to take off these 2 clamps, or just one of them actually works. And there's one wiring harness right here that you got to take off, and then that should just all slide right out of the bay. I do have a cold air intake in here, so if you guys, yours will definitely be a little different, but it's still the same concept, same bolts and everything, so it should be pretty much the same. You probably don't have to take off this tank if you don't want to take out the rad. Some people don't take out the rad, but I tried it with it being in there, and it's just much easier just taking this out. It's not much work taking it actually out, so it gives you a lot more room to work with the engine. So you got to take off this tank, which I think is just 1 bolt. I think it might be just 1 bolt, might be another one down there. But yeah, take off that tank, and the rad is pretty easy as well. There's a couple bolts up here. And I also definitely recommend getting one of these. It's like a magnet plate. You can just throw your bolts on there and they stay right there, so that's very helpful. But yes, there's these hoses that you gotta take off, and they go to the rad, and there's a couple hoses down there, I think, and maybe one, yeah, there's one right here. So if the light's not the greatest, but yeah, there's one right there. And of course you gotta take a lot of stuff from underneath, but we'll get to that later. There's actually 2 bolts right there. And I always put them right back where I took them out from. It saves you a lot of time later on trying to find the bolts. So yeah, that goes right there. And there's just this clip, so I'm going to take off this next and go from there. When you take off your AC lines, we do recommend going to a shop to get it properly drained. I did not do that this time, so it all just sprayed out and sprayed all over my car. But yeah, definitely go get that properly drained at a shop. It shouldn't cost you too much. That's one of the lines you're gonna have to take off. But that's drained now, so I did take off all this stuff and gonna work on these probably next. It's pretty basic steps on how to do it there. It's just go down. I'm just gonna be time-lapsing, taking off all the small stuff like covers and hoses and bars that you can see from up here. And I know I'm probably gonna be saying a lot of things more than once, but I'm just gonna make sure I tell you guys exactly what I'm all taking off and what I'm leaving on there. But I took off those bars, took off all these covers, so next I'm probably gonna be taking off the belt and just start taking off things that are visible. Any wires that are connected to the car, if they're just connected from like pumps or sensors to the motor, I'm gonna leave them on there. There's I think just a few back here that I'm gonna have to take off. There's a couple hoses, stuff like that, but there's not a whole lot that's connected to the engine itself. There are a few main wiring harnesses that you have to unplug. This is pretty much all that connects the car to the engine itself. And this one you gotta just really push backwards. It'll kind of be hard to push, but just give it a lot of force. And I think there's a few of these style plugs in on this motor, but I just gotta push it backwards and it should be unlocked now. And these are just like regular plugins with those kind of type of connectors. And I think that's pretty much the basics of what is actually connected to the car. So there's some clips that go to the starter, stuff like that, right over there, that you just, two of those that you unclip. And I think there might be one that goes to the starter, I'm not even quite sure. Might not even have to take off those wires. The last time we did take, because I was replacing the starter anyways, so we did take those off. But this is pretty much all the wiring you're gonna have to take off. There's a few wires that are down there, but I don't think you have to actually take any out of the ECU, because it's connected to the engine and these wires are all going into the engine. Take off this rad support. There's 2 bolts right here, 2 bolts here, and 2 bolts at the bottom. One of those I had a lot of trouble taking out. It's completely rounded out, but I used a vice grip and took off the bottom plate so I could access it better. But yeah, that works, and then you can just take the whole thing off and gives you access to the rad itself. Hey guys, it's the next day from when I filmed the last clip. I had just taken off this rad support, which gave me quite a bit of grief because of that one bolt. Yeah, I'm going to start off taking the rad off or out, and I am not quite 100% sure what I have to do, but don't quite remember from last time. But I'll just keep showing you guys what I'm doing and what you need to do. I also got this table here. Sort of made myself a table so I could store my parts better, so that's gonna be helpful. But anyways, back on the rad, I know one thing is the first thing you gotta take off this right here. There's 2 plates or 2 brackets, one there, one there. And I think after that, there aren't a lot of bolts holding the rad itself in. So, but yeah, that's one of the main things. Of course, you gotta take off all this stuff, the clips here, and there's hoses at the bottom that you gotta take out. There's this one. I think there's another couple for the AC, stuff like that. Gotta take all of those out, but we'll start off with these. So I just took off this coolant line right here. It's not quite sure if you can see it, but it's disconnected the engine right there. I did forget to drain the rad, which you guys can do very easily. Just turn this knob right here and you can just drain the rad and it won't make much of a mess. But I kind of forgot, so I made a little bit of a mess, but I did have a drip pan underneath. But yeah, that's straightening out now. Should have thought of the valve before I did it the first time, but this time I didn't do it. And there are these 2 hoses. There's one right here and one right there. I can show you from here. That one, those 2 you have to take off, but I'm not quite sure what else. There's, I think, a couple other things. These 2 wires, gotta unplug those. And this whole thing should just slide right up. It should. Alright, I'm gonna attempt to take out the rad now. I think I have everything loose that needs to be loose. But I'll take a couple of these hoses out of the way. Other than that, it should be completely loose. There we go. She is out. It's actually a pretty simple process. It saves you a lot of time and gives you a lot of space for the engine itself. So I definitely recommend you doing this. It takes a total of maybe 15-20 minutes if you work on it efficiently, and it gives you a lot more room to work on the engine itself. So I definitely recommend doing this. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Just gonna drain the rest of the coolant into this bucket. I kind of want to do the headers next, but I'm going to wait till all that's dry and soaked up and stop running. It's still running from the engine. I'm going to dry all that and then start taking out the headers. But then there's more work up here that I'm going to do and then go from there. I'm going to try to mention as much as possible of everything that I'm taking off, just so I have as much detail as possible, so this video won't be very long. But I see this bracket right here. This is for the air intake. There's just one bolt right there, and I should be able to take it off, so I will take that off. It will give me more room to slide out the engine, give me less trouble in the future, and just have it out of the way. So I will take that off, just look like a regular 12, I think, and take that off. I did mention this before. I think I told you guys we do not need to take out the starter, but yes, we do have to, because it is attached to the transmission and engine, I guess, and we're going to try to leave the transmission in here. So yes, we are going to have to remove the starter, and there's also wires connected. So there's like this one, and there's one in the back right here. They will have to be disconnected because they're all connected to this harness right here, which is connected to the car. So they all have to be brought out, and that's a pretty simple task, so that doesn't take up much time. To remove the starter, there's two bolts. There's one right here and one right here, and I gotta take off these hoses anyways, so I'm gonna take off those first, and then I can fit a ratchet better in there and actually move the bolts, because it's kind of, there's not a lot of space because of this, which I think can stay on here, but these hoses gotta come off. So yeah, I gotta take those off and have more room right here. I don't think I filmed the last part, but I did take out the starter, which I think the only thing that's left now is headers for the whole exhaust and the transmission itself, because I have, these hoses are all loose, the wires are all loose. Oh, I do have to take off these fuel lines, which you will need this kit for. I had to buy a new kit for this, but yeah, you'll need one of those, and then I believe there's two tabs. I'll try to focus. Yeah, there's two tabs. There's like one right there, and there's the other one on the other side. And I believe you have to press or get the thing and then shove it in there, so that both of those tabs definitely push in, and then they should just pop right out. This one is just a regular hose clamp, and yeah. Gotta get that done, and I think that's pretty much the last thing before the big stuff, like the transmission and headers. I'm gonna try to show you guys how to do this. I already got one, but you're gonna need the blue one, or it might be a different color, but it's gonna be a 7/8 if you have a full set's going to be a 7/8, and you want to get this thing and just clip it around here. Make sure both tabs go in, and so that in a way that will definitely cover both of these tab areas that I told you about. And you can't just try to press it in, which kind of works, but it's very hard. So I just hammered it in, and that seemed to work pretty well. Worked pretty well last time. And just like that, oops, I'm gonna try to soak up all this gas. And just like that, it comes off. Should just pop right off. But yeah, you're definitely gonna need this or 2 very strong O-ring picks. But yeah, that's one more step that's very important. Last time I took the engine out, I forgot about that and started taking out the engine. And then I saw that those lines were still connected, so you definitely want to take those out. I will need another jack stand to support the transmission when I do take it off, so I can't really do that today. That kind of sucks. And like I said, yeah, I'll gotta clean up that mess before I really work on the headers, but I'll probably do that today still. But I won't be able to take off the transmission today. Not sure where I left off last time, but I am gonna take off the headers right now. That's my next step, or take off the whole exhaust system, or however much I have to. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do next, right after I take off this sensor right here. I believe that's like a 3/4, if I'm not wrong. Might be wrong, but I think pretty sure it's a 3/4. And I think the bolts for the headers are 12mm bolts, so that's what you're gonna need for that. I was wrong with the size you need. It's 7/8. That's just break that one. So this one should come out pretty easily. There might be another one. I almost feel like there's another one. Yeah, there's one right there as well. So make sure to take both of those out before you take it out so you don't rip any wires. Yeah. So for the headers, you're gonna need a 14mm, not a 12mm, and a deep socket for sure. And there's, not quite sure if I can show you guys, but there's 2 bolts right here and 1 on the inside, so there's 6 in total. The other side of the same thing. There's 1 right there and then 2 up there. So yeah, those pretty much those 4, and then you should be able to take off. There's a ground wire right here. Be sure to take that off, and there should be one on that side as well. So be sure to take those off before you start pulling the engine. These headers might come crashing down on me, so if they do, I might scream very loudly just to warn you.
Okay.
I don't think they will though. I'm hoping they won't. So I got the headers off now. As you can see, I had all the protective stuff taken off, and these I knocked out the cats. But I do have my stock, or my first ones that were in my car at first. So I'm gonna replace those, or this one with that. And yeah, I'm gonna have the cats back in there and the protective shield and everything. But yeah, that's out now. And I think the next step is just the transmission. So I'm gonna get a jack stand underneath that. Got one right there, and start taking that off. That's a 14mm as well, so there's I think 6 to 8 bolts that you have to take off. They're all 14mm. I'm gonna do that next. Alright, I'm gonna try to show you guys as best as possible, but when you're taking off the engine mounts, if you leave the transmission in the, if you want to take the transmission out, it's best to take off, there's like a 14mm nut right in there, another one right in there. Then you take off the whole engine mounts with the engine itself. That's probably the best way to do it if you're taking out the transmission as well. But if you're leaving the transmission in, there's these 2, I'll try to show you. There's 2 studs right there. One stud right there, one there. So that the engine has to just slide out, and you can't really just lift it because then it won't slide out as well. So then there's like these 2 bolts. There's one right here, and another one like way in there. It's kind of hard to reach. You have to use a wrench, but it works. I've taken this side off, so there's one right there, and supposed to be, yeah, there's one right there. But yeah, then you can just slide the whole engine forward and just slide it off these studs right there. So that would make it way easier if you are leaving your transmission in. Yeah, that would just make it easier. So I thought I'd tell you guys about that. Well, we are to the taking out the engine part now. I think I told you guys everything that I did to get ready for it. I do have the chain at this place right now. I'm not quite sure if that's actually meant for it. I'm pretty sure it is. It doesn't look the best on that, but I think that's the best place to try it right now. And on the front, I took off one of the pulleys and just used the same bolt and mounted the chain right there. So I have it sort of crisscross. I hope that's gonna work, but I'm gonna see.
Wow, look at me go. Look at you though. Connecting to Bluetooth speaker and then not even playing music. I just need to unplug, oh yeah, do this. Take this one off of this holder in here. You want to hand me the flat head? Oh, it's right here.
Oh, yeah.
Now you're good. Yeah, I think you're good.
Alright, thanks for the help.
Hey, no worries.
It's amazing how easily these things do with the whole engine.
Yeah, with all that weight.
Got the engine out now, and it was just like I said. So these things are the two engine mounts, and they just slide right off. It makes it way easier. We did have a bit of trouble with the transmission sliding out, but as soon as we got the two studs out, which are right here, it made it a lot easier, and it just slid out. So the only thing that we did forget was, I think this thing was sort of stuck in there, and then a couple wires, but that was pretty easy. Yeah, it's out. Time to mount it to the engine stand and start working on that. It was easier than taking it out with a transmission, but putting it in might be a different thing, but taking it out was definitely easier with leaving the transmission in there. So, for future thoughts. So I just took off the clutch, and then this bearing cover, whatever, fell off. So yeah, this is not right. This is where it's very loose, and these bearings are all not in the right place. So yeah, that gives me more things to do and take off, I guess. Not quite sure what that could lead to, but hey, that's not good. So that's probably gonna be it for the taking out the engine video. I had to set it down right there for now. And like I already showed you guys, this bearing is completely shot. And everything does lead up to making sense that would be the problem. Like the oil was super good on my car, the coolant level was good. It made the right sound like a busted bearing would, and it ran until I shut it off and it wouldn't start up again, so it would make sense for it to be that. So yeah, right now the engine turns over perfectly. Like I turn over the crank, it works perfectly. So I'm gonna replace the bearing and just probably put it all back in, hope it works well. And I think putting it back in should be pretty simple. Like even with the transmission in there already, I think it should work pretty well. Yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and subscribe. See you next time.